Welcome to the May edition of Adult Book Talk. I'm Jo Ann, one of the Adult Services librarians, bringing you another preview of upcoming books of interest soon to be added to the library's collection. It's almost summer reading time, and the publishers are beginning to release new books at a record pace. During the months of May and June, we librarians will attempt to stay ahead of the onslaught by attending virtual conferences. Make certain you check out our coming soon lists, which can be found either online or in physical format in the main library, for complete listings of popular works. All annotations presented are courtesy of the author's publishers. Let's begin. Lesson in Red. Brene Brasil is a rising star at Los Angeles Art College, the most prestigious art school in the country, and her path to art world celebrity is all but assured, until she is found dead on campus just after completing a provocative documentary about female bodies, coercion, and self-defense. Maggie Richter's return to LA and her job at the Roque Museum was supposed to be about restarting her career and reconnecting with old friends. With mounting pressure to keep the museum open, the last thing she needs is to find herself at the center of another art world mystery. But when she uncovers a number of cryptic clues in Brasil's video art, Maggie is suddenly caught up in the shadowy art world of Los Angeles, playing a very dangerous game with some very influential people. The Thousand Crimes of Ming Su. Orphaned young Ming Su, the son of Chinese immigrants, is raised by the notorious leader of a California crime syndicate, who trains him to be his deadly enforcer. But when Ming falls in love with Ada, the daughter of a powerful railroad magnate, and the two elope, he seizes the opportunity to escape to a different life. Soon after, in a violent raid, the tycoon's henchmen kidnap Ada and conscript Ming into service for the Central Pacific Railroad. Battered, heartbroken, and yet defiant, Ming partners with a blind clairvoyant known only as the Prophet. Together, the two set out to rescue his wife and to exact revenge on the men who destroyed Ming, aided by a troupe of magic show performers, some with supernatural powers, whom they meet on the journey. Ming blazes his way across the West, settling old scores with a single-minded devotion that culminates in an explosive and unexpected finale. I Don't Forgive You. Professional photographer Ali Ross has recently moved to an upscale DC suburb with her lawyer husband and their kindergarten-age son. During a neighborhood party, Ali casually flirts with Rob Avery, who sexually assaults her and calls her Lexi, an old nickname associated with her statutory rape secret from her high school years. The next day, Rob is found dead after ingesting a lethal dose of liquid Ambien. The police suspect foul play and accuse Ali of murder, especially since she apparently had a Tinder relationship with the victim. But Ali insists she never created a Tinder account and claims someone is posing as her online. The hacker soon posts Facebook photos that expose Ali's secret, and the police discover that a package of liquid Ambien was delivered to her house. She realizes someone is trying to frame her, but flounders to prove her innocence, creating wedges between her family and neighbors. The Maidens. Edward Fosca is a murderer. Of this, Mariana is certain. But Fosca is untouchable. A handsome and charismatic Greek tragedy professor at Cambridge University, Fosca is adored by staff and students alike, particularly by members of a secret society of female students known as the Maidens. Mariana Andros is a brilliant but troubled group therapist who becomes fixated on the Maidens when one member, a friend of Mariana's niece Zoe, is found murdered in Cambridge. Mariana, who was once herself a student at the university, quickly suspects that behind the idyllic beauty of the spires and turrets, and beneath the ancient traditions, lies something sinister. And she becomes convinced that despite his alibi, Edward Fosca is guilty of the murder. But why would the professor target one of his students? And why does he keep returning to the rites of Persephone the maiden and her journey to the underworld. Hostage. You can save hundreds of lives, or the one that matters most. Mina is trying to focus on her job as a flight attendant, not the problems with her 5-year-old daughter back home or the fissures in her marriage. But the plane is barely taken off when Mina receives a chilling note from an anonymous passenger, someone intent on ensuring the plane never reaches its destination. The following instructions will save your daughter's life. Someone needs Mina's assistance and knows exactly how to make her comply. When one passenger is killed and then another, Mina knows she must act. But which lives does she save? Her passengers or her own daughter and husband who are in grave distress back home? It's 20 hours to landing. A lot can happen in 20 hours. Suburban Dicks. Andrea Stern, mother of 4 with a 5th on the way, stumbles across the victim while looking for a bathroom for her kids. The perpetually exhausted Andrea, who gave up her dreams of becoming an FBI profiler when she first became pregnant, decides to investigate, and after finding glaring inconsistencies in the sloppy police work, vows to track down the killer. Meanwhile, disgraced investigative reporter Kenneth Lee is attempting to resurrect his career with a story that uncovers the criminal behind the first murder in the West Windsor-Plainsboro area in more than 30 years. Together, Andrea and Kenneth uncover a grand-scale conspiracy driven by racism and institutional bigotry that has lasted generations and continues to plague the township. The author delivers a wildly entertaining blend of high-octane snark and brass-knuckle social commentary, but it's the courageous Andrea and her group of soccer moms, whom she privately dubs the cellulitis, who steal the show. Blush. For decades, the lush vineyards and majestic manor house of the Hollander Estates Winery made it the North Fork of Long Island's premier destination for lavish parties and romantic day trips. Now the Hollander family fortunes have suffered, and as matriarch Vivian Hollander prepares for the arrival of her daughter and granddaughter for their annual summer reunion, she fears it might be their last. Worse, selling the family legacy to strangers might expose the dark secret she's harbored for 35 years. Visits to the winery have been bittersweet for Leah Hollander Bailey ever since her father refused to let her take her place in the family business. Now a successful Manhattan shop owner, Leah loves the life she's built with her husband and daughter. But with her store and her marriage at a crossroads, she can't help but view this year's pilgrimage home as a sorely needed escape. College senior Sadie Bailey has a thesis to write, and the towering shelves of the Manor's library offer endless academic inspiration. But when Sadie discovers evidence that her proper grandma Vivian once ran a book club dedicated to the scandalous women's novels of decades past, the shockingly outrageous tomes give her new insight into her family's glory days. Resurrecting the trashy book club begins as the distraction all 3 women need. But as they battle to save their birthright and heal old wounds, they just might find that the pages contain everything they need to know about how to fight for what they want and for the life and love they deserve. Survive the night. Charlie Jordan blames herself for the death of Maddie, her best friend and roommate at New Jersey's Oliphant University. A day after Charlie let Maddie walk back from a bar to their dorm on her own after an argument, Maddie's corpse was found. She was stabbed multiple times and one of her teeth was removed, the hallmark of a 2-time murderer dubbed the campus killer. Racked with guilt and self-loathing, Charlie resolves to leave in the middle of the semester and finds a ride home to Ohio with Josh Baxter, a janitor employed by Oliphant, driving to the state to tend to his ill father. Charlie soon suspects Josh has been lying to her about who he is. Her tendency to create movies in her mind makes her perceptions unreliable, even to herself. Runner. Chicago in the dead of winter can be brutal, especially when you're scouring the frigid streets for a missing girl. 15-year-old Ramona Titus has run away from her foster home. Her biological mother, Lisa Evans, is a recovering addict who admits she's failed Ramona often in the past. But now she's clean. And she's determined to make up for her mistakes, if Cass can only help her find her daughter. Cass visits Ramona's foster mother, Dolores Poole, who is also desperate to bring the girl home. Ramona came to Dolores 6 months ago, angry and distrustful, but was slowly opening up. The police are on the search, but Cass has sources closer to the streets and a network of savvy allies. Yet it seems Ramona doesn't want to be found. And Cass soon begins to understand why. Ramona is holding secrets dark enough to kill for, and anyone who helps her may be fair game. And if Ramona can't run fast enough and hide well enough to keep the truth safe, she and Cass may both be out of time. The Recovery Agent. Join Gabriella Rose and her thorn-in-the-side ex-everything Rafer as they battle it out in the rainforests of Peru, explore the volcanic coast of Costa Rica, and traverse the urban jungle of New York City. It's an adventure of a lifetime, all to find a pirate-worthy treasure that can save the town they grew up in. And finally, Bad Moon Rising. Sheriff Heidi Kick, who's running for re-election against Barry Rickreiner, receives an anonymous email from Oppo offering her opposition research on her rival. The death years before of Rick Reiner's then-girlfriend, Kim Mabey, who ingested buttermilk laced with pesticide, was ruled a suicide, but was in fact a homicide, according to Oppo. At the time, Rick Reiner was an alcoholic and addict, and his recovery and redemption story is key to his unremittingly negative campaign. Meanwhile, Kick has to investigate the death of a homeless man who is buried alive. That murder may be linked to a string of disappearances of homeless men, which a priest unsuccessfully tried to get law enforcement interested in. Kick's efforts are aided by the local newspaper editor, a political supporter who's been threatened by an apparent crank. And that's it for now. Stay tuned for more of these editions of Adult Book Talk. Happy reading!